Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be empowered in their masculinity in an anti-male age. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about my 20 top tips for combating depression. I've battled with depression my whole entire life, and therapists have never been of any help, so I've always had to help myself. So, while I'm not a psychotherapist, and I'm certainly not trying to act like one for anyone, I've done a lot of research on psychology over the course of the last 25 years and have had a lot of success in battling my own depression for even longer than that. So I would like to share some of my methods for doing so in case there's any other men out there like me who haven't had any luck with psychotherapy but who are still struggling with depression that they could use some help with. The very first thing that I suggest doing is opening up all of the blinds in your apartment and flooding it with sunlight. That is the first thing I do every day. I had to close these blinds so that it didn't create glare on the camera. Without sunlight, the depression is pretty much guaranteed. Right? If you are living in a very dark or dimly lit environment, you're going to feel bad, all right, because you need light for your brain, all right? And luckily for me, I live in an apartment that has windows on 3 of its walls. And if you're a person who lives in an apartment that has very few windows and you're not getting a lot of sunlight in your apartment, you are going to need to create a lot of artificial light or move. All right, so for instance, I live in upstate New York where it's often overcast and dim and dreary, so even having all the windows open doesn't really help much. So in that case, turning on all of the lights in the room I'm in can be a big help, and making sure that every room has multiple lights in it. All right, I found that I feel best when all the corners of my apartment are well lit and there's no dark areas. And I also have found the use of a light therapy lamp that I use to light my face when I'm doing videos here, very helpful. Okay, this thing has multiple settings, so it can be fluorescent looking, or it can also look like sunlight. All right, so it can be yellowish, and that's what made me realize that getting other light bulbs for the other lights in my apartment that would look like sunlight was also very helpful. So one way or another, make sure that your apartment or where you work is very well lit. And when the weather's nice, opening the windows and getting fresh air is also a must. And so in the summertime for me, whenever it's 80 degrees or below, I just open up all of the windows. All right, I don't always use air conditioning no matter what the temperature. I make sure it's actually hot to do that. And getting fresh air really helps as well. Then my second suggestion is to try to force a smile. This actually tricks your brain into thinking that you're actually happy. But you have to keep the smile there for a while, all right? Don't just smile once and be like, oh, it doesn't work, all right? Keep it there for a while until it does actually work. It is certainly supposed to. I've heard about this from multiple different sources on it. I think there's a study on this. But then next, number 3, positive affirmations can be helpful to people who may get caught up in negative self-talk. And so exchanging that negative self-talk with some positive affirmations or some positive self-talk is very helpful, all right? Because one of the reasons we get depressed is because we're shit-talking ourselves in our mind, right? So we're getting down on ourselves, saying things like, oh man, I'm always going to be a failure. I fail at everything. Why do I even bother? Bullshit like that makes us feel bad about ourselves. So what you need to do is you need to cut that shit out and replace it with the opposite, some positive affirmations, telling yourself things like, I'm capable. I can be confident because I have the skills I need. Right? I am a very confident, capable person. I'm going to succeed. Things like that. But however, studies have shown that if you don't believe in the affirmation, it won't help. So it can't be just mechanical, all right? If you can get your brain to actually believe in it, then it will help, all right? And you can trick your brain into believing something if you really want to, okay? People do it all the time. You just don't admit to yourself that that's what you're doing. But basically every religion, every blue pill ideology, all this shit is people tricking their brains into believing something that is a pure delusion, all right? So why not exchange some of the negative beliefs you have that make you feel bad with some positive ones that promote the good feelings you want to have? Because a lot of people have success with affirmations doing that. Either way, it's worth giving it a try, all right? Just try telling yourself something like you feel happy or whatever it is you might need to feel. Tell yourself you were already feeling that way about 50 times and then see how you feel, all right? You might actually end up feeling that way, and it's certainly worth a try. And if you need more convincing in order to believe it, tell yourself what you feel happy about. List the things you have to feel grateful for in your life. Okay, and if that doesn't work, move on to the next one, number 4, which is to take a hot and cold shower. All right, when you go from the hottest heat you can possibly stand to the coldest temperature you could possibly stand, back and forth, it will give you a huge rush and really boost your endorphins and change your state because of the fact that it's altering your brain chemistry, right? So you're going to experience a real physical and mental change there that can be almost drug-like. It gives you almost like kind of a buzz similar to, a cigarette or a cup of coffee or tea or something. And then after your shower, you're going to have to get dressed, right? So number 5, put on something nice. All right, wear some nice clothes. I guarantee you will feel a lot better about yourself when you are wearing something that makes you look nice. Okay, and if you don't own any, then go get some. All right, take the next chance you get to go shopping instead of sitting at home dwelling in your depression and trying to find distractions. You've already got a mission here, right? Go find some clothes that you like the way you look in. All right, and if you don't have a reason to dress up, if you don't have anyone to dress up for instance, then you can either find whatever excuse you need to do so, or realize that you are enough. You don't need to dress up for someone else. You can do it for yourself. All right, and if you don't want to spend money on nice clothes that you don't really need, then just buy clothes at a thrift store. Go to the thrift store and look for some nice clothes. Like all of the stuff that I wear for you guys, I either got from a thrift store or someone handed it down to me. Like my dad, most of my suits that were given to me by my dad. But the ones that I bought, almost all those were bought at thrift stores or somewhere that is extremely cheap, like, Marshall's or, some clearance sale. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to look nice. I sure haven't. I'm a miser. I don't like spending money, all right? So all the clothes I wear for you, no matter how nice they look, I spent almost nothing on them, all right? So get yourself something nice to wear that you'll actually enjoy the way you look in. It will certainly make you feel better. And if it doesn't, move on to the next one. Number 6, which is to have a healthy meal. Maybe you're depressed because you're low on energy, which is basically, what the word depressed means. And that's probably because you don't have enough calories and nutrients in your body. All right, maybe you're not getting the right kinds of nutrients. Maybe you haven't been getting enough nutrients that your brain can turn into things like serotonin and other hormones, the things that it uses to make you feel non-depressed. Your food is where your brain chemistry originally comes from, all right? It's the nutrients that you intake. So eat some healthy foods so your brain can increase its serotonin and dopamine and such. And when I say healthy food, I mean whole foods. Literally anything unprocessed, all right? Let's make sure you understand that distinction. Processed foods are not healthy, and whole foods are the healthy ones. And then my next suggestion, number 7, is to find something positive to focus on. This may seem obvious if you're not depressed, but when you are depressed, it isn't obvious. You cannot think of positive things to focus on your own, all right? When you're depressed, you gravitate towards things that resemble your current emotional state and will only reinforce it. Depressed people want to do things such as listening to sad music or watching dark movies, simply because that's what resonates with their current mental state. So when you are depressed, you need to fight the urge to engage in activities that just resonate with and reinforce your depression, and instead seek positive things to focus on, even if they don't agree with the way that you currently feel. You need things that are positive in order to change your state. You're not going to change your state by focusing on the things that are depressing. All right, so be sure to remind yourself of that when you are depressed and force yourself to go in another direction with what you are focusing on. Such as my next tip, number 8, comedy. Watch a comedic film or listen to a stand-up comedian. Humor is the best antidepressant. All right, even if you aren't in the mood to laugh, listening to a comedian may still help. You may find that it changes your state and you do end up laughing even though you thought you weren't in the mood. Or even if you don't laugh and it doesn't change your depression, chances are that it will still have you feeling better than you would have if you hadn't listened to the comedy. And so it'll do damage control on your depression rather than perpetuating it. All right, but you may find that if you try to force some laughter just to get the ball rolling, more will come naturally. Either way, listening to some comedy or watching, a funny movie or whatever, having some humor in your life and getting some laughter can be the best medicine. Then number 9, being productive and getting shit done is very important to feeling good. The human mind has evolved to solve problems, and so it fundamentally needs to have problems to work on. And when it doesn't, It will invent problems. That's why people who have very easy lives, who seem to not have anything to be sad about at all, will get depressed just because they don't have any problems to work on. Finding a problem to solve or something to work on and be productive at is a very rewarding emotional experience. The feeling of accomplishment is one of the best feelings that we can have because that's what dopamine is all about. It is the reward chemical. I always feel better about myself when I'm being productive and accomplishing something each and every day. Even if it's my day off and I don't want to do work that I consider to be my job, there's still household chores to do that make me feel good once they're done. Cleaning your home is very therapeutic because it will make you feel better to see your home in a better condition. But whatever you do, don't let yourself be idle. It's just depressing. You need to find something to work on, to busy yourself with. Find something productive to do, whatever it may be, and you will feel better, especially when it gets done and you get the dopamine hit that your brain will reward you with for it. Then number 10, positive, upbeat, fast-paced, rhythmic music is a very powerful resource that will usually change your state because music stimulates so much brain activity. It stimulates parts of the brain that aren't normally as active. It alters our brain waves. It can create new neural connections. It does so much for us and can cause us to experience so many positive emotions too, as long as you are focusing on the type of music that is positive, such as upbeat, fast-paced, rhythmic music. Not the depressing, sad songs that you're going to want to listen to naturally when in the depressed state. You have to force yourself to listen to something different. It's going to change your state. And what's even better than listening to music is playing a musical instrument, which is even more therapeutic. But if you don't want to do that, the next one, number 11, is to find some sort of creative outlet, whatever it may be. If you aren't a musical type, then find some other art form to focus on. All right, immersing yourself in your favorite art form is the best way to escape a painful reality. Whether it be closing your eyes and listening to your favorite songs in stereo headphones and allowing yourself to get consumed by the vibrations, or watching your favorite movie and getting engulfed by that reality, or going to an art gallery, or doing something creative yourself. Art is very therapeutic and can be actual therapy too. So whether or not you are an artistic type naturally, it doesn't matter. Find something creative or artistic to focus on. It will be very good for your brain and have a very therapeutic effect that will make you feel better. And if you don't know what one to choose, I highly recommend the next one, number 12, write about your feelings. Journaling is a very therapeutic thing because writing is more than just thinking the words and getting them on paper. In order to do the writing of your thoughts, you have to stimulate more parts of your brain. So when you are doing the writing, you are engaging your brain so much more than if you were just doing the thinking alone. All right. And so by activating more brain activity, you will find yourself doing more thinking than you would have done otherwise. So all too often, when people in the self-help industry like me or therapists advise others to do journaling, they think to themselves, well, why can't I just do the thinking in my head, right? Why does it have to go down on paper? And they don't do the writing and think they're going to be able to just do the thinking. But guess what? That's what they've always been doing. It didn't work before and it doesn't work now, all right? In order for it to be therapeutic, you have got to actually put the pen to paper and do the fucking writing. So don't be lazy or make any kind of bullshit excuses like how you don't like the idea of journaling because it just sounds silly or something like that. I mean, if you do that, you are just acting fucking stupid. You aren't illiterate, are you? No? Then if you have something weighing on your mind, sit the fuck down and write it out. It's going to be so much more helpful than it's ever been with you just trying to think things through. If something is important, you got to write it down. And then when you're done with that, move on to number 13, which is to stand up and move around. Like I said, idleness is depressing, okay? So don't just sit around. If you don't have a reason to be sitting, if you don't have something to be working on there at your chair, like writing, then stand the fuck up and move around. Your body and your brain want you to move, okay? Your body was built to do that. It's what your body was built to do. And usually when you're depressed, what you need is some exercise. It is the best way to boost your endorphins, such as dopamine and testosterone, which will make you feel great. So try doing 12 to 25 squats right now and see how you feel. I guarantee you'll feel better. Seriously, stand up and do 12 to 25 squats right now. You don't have to grab onto any weights, just start doing squats. All right, 12 to 25 of them. And if you can't squat because you have bad knees or something, at the very least, you should go for a walk or do whatever you can in the way of exercise. I, for one, have found that kicking a heavy bag is very therapeutic and is the best way for me to get out my negative energies and my negative emotions like anger. But All of the exercises I do always cause a endorphin rush and make me feel better. There's no sort of exercise that doesn't fight depression, all right, as long as you are doing it hard enough, right? So you can certainly walk slowly enough and exert too little effort and have it not have any effect. So whatever you do, make sure it is actually exercise, that you're actually putting in enough effort to make a difference, okay? And if you are too tired, then what you probably need is number 14, to take a nap. All right, maybe you're depressed because you are just too tired to function and do anything. Maybe all you need is some sleep, because not getting enough sleep certainly does cause depression, and you may need more sleep than you think you do. Okay, you may not be getting enough sleep because not everyone can go on 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Some of us need 9 or 10 or even more, right? Especially during times of stress. If you have a very stressful life, you need more sleep. And oftentimes during times of stress, people get less sleep. And no wonder you feel bad when that's the case, okay? Also, I recently learned that humans aren't naturally meant to only sleep once per 24 hours. So usually you won't be getting all of the sleep that you need by just sleeping at night. So naps are natural and very good for us. So if you find yourself depressed because you are tired and low on energy and struggling to even get through your day, what you need to do is get some more fucking sleep. This is what happened to me yesterday. I ended up taking a nap from 1 to 3. And, at first I was like, do I really want to give up the peak of my day to take a nap? And I realized, this isn't going to be a peak because I'm not functioning at high enough level, all right? This isn't quality time. I'm barely able to function normally. So I need to just go to sleep, and I will be able to make up for that time much better after I wake up with more energy, feeling revitalized. And that is exactly what happened. When I woke up, I had so much more energy. I got so much more done in my remaining time of the day, all right? So give that a try. You will probably feel better if you start napping more when you find yourself depressed. And if you can't get yourself to sleep, just try spending that time meditating and thinking positive thoughts. However, if you can't take a nap and you need to boost your energy, the next thing I suggest, number 15, is rallying. Blast some loud heavy metal music and dance or jump around. Try yelling out your favorite lyrics. Try clapping or doing something to get yourself pumped up the same way you would for a sporting event. All right, this is something that is really helpful to me when I am at my lowest and need to get my energy level up so that I can get things done, especially things that require a lot of hard work, like doing a workout. Rallying is key to me and me being able to function at that level, because usually my base state is not enough. It's quite depressed compared to where I need to be in order to do a hard workout or something like that. So rallying is a really helpful thing that I'm actually going to be doing an entire video of its own on, so you can stay tuned for that in the future. But then the next one, number 16, masturbation, causes a ton of hormones like endorphins to be released in the brain, and is basically a form of medicine because of that, okay? Which is why it can be addictive, so make sure you don't get addicted to it. But when you are feeling really depressed because you do not have enough dopamine and testosterone and other hormones in your brain, masturbation is a very powerful way to change that and produce a ton of them, all right? And it will very much change your state because of that. So just make sure you don't get addicted to it. And if you want to learn more about that, check out the video I did recently on sex addiction, all right? But otherwise, used in moderation, this is a very powerful method to change your brain chemistry. As is the next one, number 17, have some caffeine, okay? Or maybe not, depending, because caffeine will stimulate you and boost your dopamine and serotonin too, though it is a drug which is addictive, and addiction to it depletes these effects over the long term. All right, so if you use caffeine daily, that can actually cause depression, as you will need more and more of it to stimulate the dopamine and serotonin that you want. All right, so if you already are addicted to caffeine, as most people are, that is probably the cause of your depression. So you may want to actually get off of it instead of using more of it. All right, so this could actually go one way or another. If you're depressed and you don't normally use caffeine, it can certainly help you then. However, if you are addicted to it, it is the source of your depression, and you need to break that addiction if you want to feel better. And then the next one, number 18, smoking weed also helps. And it is a medicine that I often use for my depression, but you are creating a high state, and for every high, there is going to be a corresponding low. And so while microdosing and using a very small amount of cannabis may not produce this kind of effect, if you get yourself really high, you're going to to end up feeling far worse when you calm down. All right, so I only recommend using it in small doses that aren't going to produce an extreme high and then an extreme low. Instead, I recommend microdosing, which is what you're supposed to do when using cannabis medicinally, unless you have some very serious health problems that require really large doses. All right, but don't just go smoking a blunt until you get as high as you possibly can, intaking even more than your receptors can handle, and then end up back here tomorrow when you're depressed again. All right, and also only use this if you can afford it, okay, because it is addictive and there's no point in putting yourself into a financial rut, because that's also going to be depressing. And speaking of microdosing, number 19 is microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. This has been clinically found to fight depression, as psilocybin turns into serotonin in the brain. Just keep in mind that I'm talking about microdosing here, which is going to take place at about 250 milligrams, depending on how much you weigh. All right. However, high doses of psychedelics can also be useful for people who are seriously depressed. Having a really psychedelic experience on a high dose of any psychedelic can be very helpful and even life-changing if it's something you really need. And I can do a video on psychedelics if you people are interested in hearing more about that, because that is something I'm an expert in. So if you want to learn more about psychedelic drugs, let me know in the comments below. And then the last tip, number 20, is planning a party for yourself, which is something you can do alone and something I'm going to teach you about how to do in another few videos. So you can look forward to that, but just know that the key here, why this works, is because having something to look forward to boosts dopamine. All right, and it helps you to feel more optimistic about the future. And one of the reasons we feel depressed is because we don't have anything good to look forward to. Right? There's nothing to be optimistic about. Right? So if that's the case, then you need to create something to be optimistic about. Give yourself something to look forward to. All right, even if there isn't an occasion coming up, you need to make one. All right, so planning a party for yourself so that you can let loose on one of the upcoming weekends can be helpful as well. It's something I like to do from time to time when I'm in between my training blocks. So those are my 20 methods for combating depression. It's enough that you shouldn't be able to even make it through the whole list without feeling better and then not even needing to do the rest of them. But if nothing works, then you know you need some professional psychiatric help. Just make sure that you try everything on this list first, as that should be a last resort. But also, I think it's important to keep in mind that you can't be happy all the time. As I said, for every high, there's going to be a corresponding low. So sometimes you're just going to have to feel sad, because that is the appropriate feeling to have at certain times. Like, for instance, when you're grieving over a death or some sort of great loss. And in those times, you are just going to have to grit your teeth and bear it, and just try to get on with your life in spite of your feelings. Or if your feelings are strong enough, you're going to have to work your way through them, either with a therapist or through journalizing and analyzing your feelings. And if there's anything that you find helpful, be sure to leave it below and share your personal experiences. Otherwise, that concludes this video. Thanks for listening. I hope I mansplained that good enough for you. If you like what you heard, please click the like button. And if you feel you gained some value from this video and would like to give some back, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support helps fund me doing this work and fight the good fight for men like you. If you're ready to take the red pill and wake up from the matrix and learn everything you need to know about the underlying truths and mysteries of the universe and gain some more meaning in your life, be sure to get your copy of the Bible of Esoteric Knowledge on sale at the link below now for a very special price that won't last long. It is a very fascinating intellectual philosophy book that uncovers all sorts of esoteric, metaphysical, mystical mysteries of the universe, from Far Eastern thinking to shamanism to ontology and other spiritual philosophy to theoretical physics and metaphysics and more. This book is sure to give you the intellectual stimulation and the meaning in life that you crave, and it is written in verse format just like the Bible, which makes it a very concise, dense, and quick read that is information-packed. So get yours at the link below now, and otherwise you can stay tuned for my next video coming out tomorrow, which is going to be on what to do when there is no hope for you left. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.